This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Anyone, any questions, guys, before I get started? Anyone, anything before I get started out here? Any questions that I can take? Did you all try deploying the code? Is it working for you all? Did you all try this out? Yes, no, maybe. Yes.
No,
I'm sorry.
uh, the error is
Sir,
coming
multiple
while
databases. Yes, we can think about multiple databases, sir. But firstly, did you deploy the single code? Any errors there? Multiple databases, you just need multiple connection strings, and you also need to modify your code so that that code can connect to multiple data sources and get the data back in. You will have to know, not with the same code. With the same code, you cannot do it. With this, that same code is only configured to, let's say, access the data, grab the data from a single database. If you have multiple databases, A, you need to get into your app service and you need to mention multiple data sets out here. You go into the configuration out here. There is one SQL connection string. There's only one connection out here. You need to mention one more connection called SQL connection 2. To the value of this one, say value 2. What connection this is? Is it SQL, MySQL, Mongo, Cassandra, whatever it is? I'll say SQL Server, Azure. I'll say okay. This is your second connection. Your code also has to support grabbing the data from this particular SQL Server as well. So the code has to be modified. So the code, both the code and this one has to be modified to, let's say, go ahead and support multiple data sources out there. Yes, any more questions? Someone online had a question. I'm sorry. Someone online was asking something.
actually the code was not deployed.
Okay, what is the error that you were getting while you were trying to deploy the code?
Resources.
When you say resources, what exactly is the error? Can you please elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, yeah. Wait a minute.
Yes, any more questions while Pawan is answering that? Anyone, any more questions out here? Again, guys, you'll have to practice this out. Now, if you do not, then it's really not, let's say, worth it out here. If you practice it out, only then you can get some doubts, and if you can get some doubts, only then I can address those doubts out here. Again, if you would have practiced it out, you would have realized that the code that I've given to you, it's not deployable. You will get an error while deploying the code, and I expect you all
Location
to resolve. I'm sorry.
location code location is to time lapse notification time lapse error.
Can you come again, please?
Can
Location is
can I share it on a chat window? Please?
yes, you can share it on the chat window, or you can send me a screenshot. Anything is okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Any more questions here? Anyone? Any more questions out here?
Sir, can you
Well, publishing.
segregate the data through SQL?
I'm sorry. Just a second, Sai Kiran. I was just taking question offline. Just come back to you in a
Oh,
second.
okay.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it is asking password while publishing a code. How are you publishing the code? Like, okay, you will get the password. You'll have to give the password. You'll have to sign in firstly, and that will take multiple sign-ins. It will take up 2 or 3 sign-ins to, let's say, get that right. And once you sign in, then you can publish the code out there. Yes, just a second. Yes, Sai Kiran, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Can you segregate the data through SQL?
Can I segregate the data through SQL? When you say segregate the data, what exactly do you mean by that? Can you please elaborate a little on that one?
That means I got some data from client. There is a lot of tables, a lot of pictures, lot
Okay,
of PDFs.
okay, okay,
So I want to segregate all these things in a
okay,
sequence order.
okay.
Those are things possible in SQL.
Yes, it's possible in SQL. You can segregate all your data type using SQL queries out here.
Okay. Where you can do that one? Is there any further classes there or not?
No, we are not doing SQL out here in depth. We are not going into SQL commands because SQL altogether is a different topic, which as a DevOps engineer we do not really need. We are not going
Okay.
into SQL as such. So for that, you will need to do SQL. Let's say there is SQL courses out here, which is source query language.
Uh-huh.
This is something that you'll have to do. SQL tutorials and all these things to understand what really SQL really is about. But as a DevOps engineer, I wouldn't suggest you to have a knowledge of SQL out here.
This is not necessary.
No, it is not.
So when you will start the DevOps, actually?
Next week, from Monday, we'll start with DevOps.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Any more questions here? Anyone? Any more questions out here that I can take? So if I just browse this out, this is what I get. I get a lot of data out here and all these things out here. Saying list of services, it's saying a lot of things out here and etc. Now, good thing that we have our application. We have all these things out here. What if you get some error while the code deployment or after the code deployment? You're not able to see the page. Like earlier, we weren't able to see the page at all, right? You're getting some error because we did not have a connection string. What if the connection string gets deleted because of some reason? Maybe the connection string is altered, something like that. Let's say if I change my connection string, if I put a wrong password here, and if I just update this out and restart my application and then try to, let's say, reach out to my application out here. So if I just go to the OU page, I'll just restart this out. And once I restart this out, I'll try to browse this out once again, or I'll just refresh this particular page. Anything works. Getting this called page isn't working. And why isn't working? Why isn't this working? Connection string, the value got changed. I am giving an incorrect value there. But this is something that I did it in a live class. I went there, did an incorrect value, and that's the reason you're able to identify that yes, this is an incorrect value, and that's the reason you're not able to, let's say, get this out and all that stuff. Again, service unavailable at this temporary request. Okay, let me refresh this a couple of times, and you should see something like it's not, getting and all that stuff. Reason being, you're getting a lot of errors out here. Reason being, I changed that particular connection string value because the SQL Server password is Microsoft -001. I changed that password, put it something called as Microsoft 002, wrong password. You're getting all these errors out here right now. You're able to identify that this error is because of the SQL password because I changed it in a live class. What if I did not change it in a live class? What if a developer went ahead, did something, password got changed? You don't know the password got changed out here. My question here is that how do we identify the error? How do we help our developers identifying all these things out here as such? That's what I actually want to get into. Using this page, can you tell from seeing at this page, just seeing at this particular text, because you might not have the knowledge that password got changed because you're not the only user who's working in your organization. There might be multiple people, multiple DevOps engineers, and probably one of the DevOps engineer by mistake he changed the password. Probably by mistake he changed the password out here. Looking at this particular page, will you be able to identify that yes, the SQL password is the error? Will you be able to identify it? Probably not. Then one more thing that I can do is that, see, whenever we get an error on the UI, this is a UI front end or a UI user interface. What we do is that we pull up something called as a developer tool. We say something called as developer tool. Every browser has something known as a developer tool out here. In order to, let's say, load that particular developer tool, I can either go into, let's say, something like settings, no, more tools. There's something known as developer tools out here. I can either click on this one, or the very shortcut for it is just go ahead, do an F12 on your keyboard. It will load the developer tool. So either just click on these three dots, say more tools, and go to developer tools, same thing, or F12 on your keyboard, you'll get the same thing out here. So with the developer tool on, I am under something known as a network tab on the developer tool right now. If I go ahead and click on this one, I am getting an error while making a GET request. So this browser is trying to make a GET request, or this particular application is making a GET request from a backend SQL database. From a backend SQL database, it's trying to go ahead, trying to get something. And this is where it's giving you an error called internal server error out here. Again, this helps you to a certain extent. This will help you to a certain extent to just understand what is exactly the error code that you're getting and all these things out. But it doesn't really tell you that the password is incorrect. The password is incorrect and all these things. No, this doesn't really tell you that. For which I need a specialized tool out here, guys. I need a specialized tool which will help me to monitor all my application. That's where a tool called application insights comes into picture. Application insights out here. Did you hear about this anytime, anywhere? Application insights out here. Did you anyone hear about this anytime? Created while creating the web. Exactly. While creating the web app, there is a tab called monitoring. Application insights is a tool to monitor your web apps or all the attached PaaS services that are, or let's say to attach to your web app out here. In my case, there is a SQL database out here. You can have a Cosmos, you can have a storage account and all these things, and everything will be monitored. Again, two ways to create your application insights. One, when you create a web app services, when you say create app services, under monitoring, you can just go ahead and directly switch this on, saying enable application insights. Or in my case, I do not have this enabled. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead. Right now I do have just the app service plan and the app service. I'll go ahead create one more resource out here called application insights. Insights. This is your application insights out here. So let's go there. I'll say create application insights. It's asking me what is your subscription, what is your resource group. I'll just give a name to the application insights telling that this is demo app insights. This is demo app insight 1000, something like this. Demo app 1000 or something like that. I'll say the location of the application insights is ECS2. I'll say go for a classic model. We'll start with something called classic model out here. And I will say review and create this out. I just gave what is the name. I just gave what is, let's say, the resource group and what is the location. That's it. These are the three things that I've given. Probably one of the most simplest resources that you can create out here would be something called as an app insights or application insights. We call it as AI, app insights, application insights, and all that stuff. And once I create this out, I'm creating this out. And what I want to do is that whenever I get some logs from my web app, this here web app produces a lot of logs out here. I want the web application to report all these logs to your application insights resource and then go ahead and let's say do whatever it needs to do to connect to the SQL server, get the data and all that stuff. When I say logs, it can be exceptions, errors, it can be normal trace logs, anything. I want this particular web app to go ahead and start reporting it to something known as an application insight out here. This is what I wanted to do. Good enough. So I just went ahead, created this resource called application insight. So if I go into my resource group, I have a web app, I have a plan. These two existed earlier also. Now I have one more resource called what? Application insight out here. And if you see the left hand side of the application insight, it has a lot of things. Application map, smart detection, live metrics, transaction search, availability, failures, performance, a lot of things out here. If I just click on something, if I just click on something like application map, it's saying no data available. If I click on live metrics, it is just telling, or it will just give you an error telling that not available, your app is, let's say, offline and everything. I created the application insights, guys, but did I configure my web app to report to this particular application insight? No, I did not do it. Now the code that is running inside your web application, right, that needs to make sure that it is taking all the logs and sending it to your application insights out here. This is called as telemetry injection. We call this as telemetry injection. Okay, telemetry is nothing but logs. So the code that you are using should be configured for something called as telemetry injection. So what I'll do is, as a DevOps engineer or as, let's say, an infrastructure administrator, your job is to create the application insight out here. Create and keep it ready. As a developer, I'll again come back to my code. Okay, I'll again come back to the code that I do have right now. Can you instance of this one? That's fine. Let me go to the download section. This is the code that I was working with yesterday. I'll go into this code, open this out. Same thing. I just downloaded this code, opened this out yesterday. I built and published this out yesterday, right? I'll do the same thing today, but I'll do something a little different. I'll configure my code so that the code will report to that particular application insights out here. What will I do is that I'll just come here, click on the SQL app. Just wait for this one to load. And once it loads out here, I'll just close this out. I'll say cancel. I'll say okay. I'll just click on this one and yes, exception unknown software. Okay, fine. Okay. Okay, just try this out. This software seems to be a bit off today. I'll see whether this allows me to go ahead and do something out here. So the package not load and all that stuff correctly. Okay. Cannot create a window. Let me close this out and reopen this out once again. Let's see what it again. Yesterday there was some internet issues and all that stuff, and from then I started getting this particular error. Okay, load the space impacted. Okay, please free up. Okay, I'll just load this out right now. Let's see whether I'm able to do it successfully. Internal server error, show tracks trace. Okay, space. It is weird. Let's see. Getting a lot of errors out here. Let's see if I'm able to get rid of this one. Did not load correctly. Configuration changes and all these things. Yes. Okay, there seems to be some issue with the software clearly. I'll have to probably upgrade this particular software in order to continue this demo. We'll see. We'll try doing this particular demo. We'll see if that doesn't work. Then we'll take some questions and then we'll move from there. Let's see if I'm able to do a right click. Yes, finally I'm able to do something out here. And once I do a right click out here, there is something called configure application insights out here. Under publish, there's something called configure application insights. I'll say yes, I want to configure the application insight. And then it will now open up a page telling what kind of an application insights that you want. I already have something called as application insights running on Azure. I'll say next. And now it's telling this is your subscription. I understand. This is the application insight that you created, which is demo app 1000. I'll say great. I'll say next. I'll say next. I'll say finish. Again, these are the errors that I'm not really, let's say, focusing on, because this is a tool that you normally don't go ahead and, let's say, work as a developer out here. I'll say cancel this out. Let's see, service dependencies. This is good enough. Packages. Expectation and site score. Okay, let's see. Registration failed, warnings and all that stuff. Okay, there's no enough space on the disk. There is some issue that I'm getting thing with my system out here. Let me try this out once again. And let me try to inject this out right now. Okay, should be an issue with, let's say, the entire system out here. Let's say it won't save. I mean, one thing, let me go ahead and delete this out. Let me re-download it once again and see whether that is going ahead and let's say, fine, let's see. Oh, there's really no disk space out here. I will have to check why this is. And there's about 729 MB free of 249 GB out here. Seems odd. I did not install really a lot of things out here. Let me check this out. Okay, let's see. I need to clean up this particular space and then I need to, let's say, continue with this particular demo, because apparently the Visual Studio is loading from this particular space out here, and for some reason this is just showing me that I just have about 728 MB out here, which is very odd. Okay, I'll see why this is, let's say, happening out there, and continue with this demo. But right now I won't be able to go forward with this particular demo out here to show you the application insights out here, which is super okay, not a problem. But what I'll do is that, let me continue with this. I can, let's say, whatever I can do on the portal, let me continue there, and we'll come back to the application insights demo for monitoring and all these things out once I fix those errors out there. Yesterday, do you all remember that we added something called as a virtual network? Let's forget application insights for now. Do you remember that I added something called as a virtual network out here? Added a virtual network, protected my SQL server with that particular virtual network out here, and then I went ahead and did something called what? I went ahead and I did protected something called as the outbound call by using something known as a virtual network integration out here. So we did this, right? And in order to do the virtual network integration, the first thing that I did is that I firstly scaled myself up from an F1 plan to something known as an S1 plan out here in order to support my application to go for the virtual network integration out here. And let me do one thing. I'll just go ahead, correct this out. I'll change the password out here. We'll come back to the application insights part in a minute, in couple of, let's say, classes from now. I have some issues with that particular, let's say, this space. I'll fix that and we'll see that. So if I just go ahead and I'll say this one, this is the right password that I put in. Just save. I'll just say continue. And once I put in the right password out here, once I restart the application, I'll just go ahead and refresh my page once again. Again, once you restart a particular application, it will take some time for that to come back online, for which you are getting this particular error telling that the service is not available and all that stuff. So refresh a couple of times and allow the browser cache to, let's say, move away. And with this error code that you get here, no, you won't be able to identify it. It will become very difficult because one error code can have multiple meanings out there for you, for which you need a specialized monitoring tool for, let's say, monitoring all these things out here. That's where I want to bring in application insights out here. Normally a 200 code out here tells that everything is okay. 200 okay is everything green, and now everything is green because I am able to go ahead, or I went ahead and changed that particular password out here. Let's do one more thing out here, is that this is all good. You have your virtual network protecting your SQL server, you have a lot of things out here, great. What if that I want to go ahead and make this application private? I don't want anyone to go ahead and, let's say, access this out. I want only a few people within my organization to go ahead and access this out. As of now, this is an internet application. It's an internet application out here. I want to make it an intranet application. It's an intranet application. Only my internal access, or only my, let's say, people inside my organization needs to access this out. So what do you think that I can do out here? What do you think? Anything that you can remember? What do you think we can do out here as such? Public IP, yes, yes, you are. Let's say to the point. Let's say just a second. Yes, Santosh, I'll talk about when we can complete the course out here. We'll talk about that.
So,
But
Kiran, I
yes,
have query. Sorry, before we go into that, I just want to unmute myself to speak. You have pressed F12, right? You have pressed
okay.
F12, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is from Azure portal, portal.azure.com, or either we need a install a Visual Studio after getting the F12 and we can get the pop-up.
No, you don't need to. All you need to have is a browser, Google Chrome, whatever it is. So if you have a browser, just press F12 and you will come into that one called developer tool out there as such.
Okay. In the web app only we can go it, Kiran. In the web app automatically it's take another page tab.
Mhm. In the web app, yes. I mean, when you say web app, again, this F12 is applicable to any website. Even if I do google.com and do an
Okay.
F12 out here, if I just go ahead hit the F12 out here, I still get the same thing out here. So if I just refresh this page, all the network calls are tracked here. There are a lot of things in the background that's running. So all of these things are tracked out here. It's a live website. So you're able to see so many web calls out here that's happening. So F12, you don't need to install really anything. All you need is a browser. Any browser kind of supports this out. Either Internet Edge or Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, whatever it is you have. All these supports this particular, let's say, thing out here as such.
Thank you so much for clearing.